love the chase and the hunt, and I set the
Okay,
pace.
welcome back to another edition of Coach's Corner. And my name is Walter Beede, also known as Baseball Lifer. You can find me on Twitter at BaseballLifer11. The purpose of the channel is to answer any and all questions relating to youth baseball, travel baseball, high school and college baseball, as well as college recruiting. Today we are joined by Mr. Singer in Chicago, a big Cubs fan. Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Walter. Thanks for having me.
So what we want to do here is we want to try to get some information out to families that might be experiencing similar questions or decisions that they ultimately have to make. So whenever you're ready, just fire away.
Yeah, sure thing. So I think a bit of context. Like I've got a 10-year-old that plays house baseball with like a part-time travel thing. I got a 15-year-old freshman in high school that kind of grew up the same way and now has made a move over the past few years to play more full-time travel. But the question that I get a lot and the question that I wrestle with is kind of like, when's the right time, and what are the signals that you see whenever a kid is kind of ready to make a move from, more rec and development kind of stuff to more focused competition and refine that development for being a baseball player?
Well, typically you want to look for some dominant performances, meaning once an athlete has demonstrated that they are clearly the best within a league or they're the best within a team, and you can see consistency in that development and in that play, that's kind of the signal, the flare that goes up and says, okay, we're ready for the next level. You want to look for one or two dominant tools, whether it's foot speed, whether it's bat, ball strike contact skills, power, arm strength. Anytime, for instance, if I'm a pitcher or if I'm an infielder and my arm strength is clearly superior, that means, okay, we're ready for the next step. We want to kind of begin to challenge ourselves a little bit more. The biggest thing is in order to test that, what you want to try to do is put your sons in an environment where they're playing against slightly older competition. The issue with travel baseball is that it doesn't mirror or look anything like high school baseball or college baseball more significantly. So when you go age by age, year by year, you're really not getting a true test of where you would measure out with regards to playing high school, whether that's JV or varsity. So if you have the opportunity, whether it's in the fall or somewhere in the summer, to jump into a few older tournaments, and if you can see them kind of assimilating into that style of play and they're not intimidated and they're holding their own, that's generally a sign that, okay, we need to kind of get to that next level and challenge ourselves. So what I try to tell parents is there's really no need for 13-year-old baseball. You should, from 12, you want to get into that 14-year-old. When you're 15, you want to be playing 16 or 17 if you can. Find an organization or find, American Legion, Babe Ruth, something that allows the athletes to be involved in watching and participating with older players. That's the number one trusted method of really knowing that the boys are ready for that kind of that next level, especially when it's coming close to high school age. You kind of want to get that fear element out of the way, because when you're so used to facing boys your own age, you get to high school as a freshman and you look around the locker room, you see guys with big muscles, you see guys with shoulders and, big forearms. And that's why the strength component is so important and vital when the boys start to be like 12, 13 years old.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think one of the I've had to balance with the older guy, and I kind of see the same thing coming up with the younger guy too. They gotta still want to play with their friends, right? Like it's the thing. I got it even just at the end of the last season. Like my high schooler kind of made a jump similar to what you're describing into like a program that I think is set up in those kind of ways. But even at the end of the season, he was on the fence. He's like, you know what? Like these guys he played with for the past several years, they had a lot of fun together. So it's when do you? It's the how do you balance those kinds of things?
Well, to me, I always lean towards the friends until it becomes crystal clear that the skill sets are so advanced, and it doesn't sync up with the goal or the dream, so to speak. Because I really feel it's important for the kids to have that childhood dynamic of growing up with their friends, getting involved in playing and participating and competing with their friends. But at that certain point when the goal doesn't fit with the the present situation, and your destination might be a little bit different. So case in point, to play college baseball, you really want to know that you're prepared as a hitter to hit velocity, hit movement. And so if you're not quite getting that with the local teams, then yes, you do have to kind of branch out. But for the vast majority of student athletes, high school baseball is that final frontier. If we look at the numbers and we say 10-12% of all high school baseball players will play in college at some level, so you're looking at 9 out of 10 players are not going to play in college. So I always try to say to families, as long as the boys are saying, I want to play with my buddies, great. As long as those teams that they're competing with and on are good, instructional, and there's some development component to it, stay the course. But if it becomes clear that not being challenged, maybe just really dominating and just not being, having the ability to compete at the level that he wants to or aspires to compete at after high school, if he has that ability, then that's the difficult decision. I had that with my youngest son. My oldest son kind of stayed with his peers and did play in college. My youngest son kind of had to, about the age of 16, 16, at end of that sophomore year is kind of when we made that move to kind of go more in a regional, national type of environment. But really that was strictly predicated on his ability level had begun to elevate himself to a point where he needed, in order to prepare for college baseball, he needed to kind of get out and compete against those similar caliber players that were, in different parts of the country.
Yeah, you got it. And then I think one more connected to this, and then I'll cut you loose. But the baseball world as kids it feels remarkably different than when we grew up, right? And mostly it's about like the split off into full travel kind of organizations, and you see these things happen almost as dominoes, right? So like I'm fortunate that in the small town that we live in, we have about 500 boys playing baseball in our house league throughout the summertime. So it's good, it's good baseball relative to other things I've seen. But you see an age group like where a couple of some of the best players go out, and then a handful more kind of follow them to go make, round out the majority of a team. And then, well, because those people are gone now, it feels like we got to go too, right? So I think I understand, what you're saying about like the top caliber players, someone that does need to challenge themselves. But what do you have in mind for those kids that are, maybe they're in the top 20%, maybe they're in the top 30%, but they're not the guy. What kind of advice would you give to those people? Like, do they go, do they stay? Like, what kinds of things should they be keeping in mind?
First of all, one of the biggest questions and concerns that I always get from parents is why travel ball, when travel ball, where travel ball. It's a business. And so those people inevitably fall for the whole fear of missing out. They're led to believe that the competition is greater, the players are better, there's more college coaches watching. A fraction of that is accurate. The rest is all BS. At the end of the day, here's the bottom line. Playing baseball is all that matters. Getting repetition is all that matters. You don't necessarily have to travel 3 hours to play against a team that's probably not going to be any better than the team that's in your backyard to play against. It's just that they have fancier uniforms and equipment bags, and it's at a maybe a better field possibly. But really, I always tell parents, stay local for as long as you can. Your sons the opportunity to practice more. So the key is the travel ball model is more games, less practices. Local tends to be the opposite, more practices or more opportunities to practice and kind of fewer games, which is really what it's all about. If a local organization is emphasizing the strength, the speed, the repetitions, so that the skill set development is kind of beginning to get on par with the strength component, now you're developing a student athlete. So the direct answer to your question is typically people follow somebody that tells them that the grass is greener over to the right, and then they begin to look at all the hotel bills and food and gas and lodging and apparel and entry fees, and it's not really much different. It's not unique. It's not the glory that they think that it is, especially as it pertains to the rankings, the showcases, and things like that. Baseball, as long as you have a good competitive local area league that has numbers, and you have a good competitive high school environment where the high school coaches are actively involved with your sons, you're in great shape. And I will tell you that more college coaches are utilizing high school coaches' feedback, because those coaches are with your sons more. They see them practice. They know their study habits. They know their practice habits. And so a lot of people are kind of trying to look past high school, when in reality, it's all coming back to the high school coaches. It's all coming back to the consistency that the boys are having, because that way they're getting more out of being involved as a team. That is a really big part of this. So you say your sons love to play with their teammates and their friends. That's what the college coaches are beginning to look for. Student athletes to have a sense of community, have a sense of team. In fact, I just interviewed a college coach last night, and his exact words to me were, I spend more time trying to teach incoming student athletes from the high school and travel levels how to be a part of a team, how to recognize their roles within the teams, than I do on skill set development. So that speaks volumes to the kind of the focus that the college coaches are having. So I think you're on the right path, to be honest with you. I'm not a big proponent, or I don't see a big need, especially if you have a local Legion or senior Ruth team. I've seen a lot of very talented players at the Legion level that go right into the college programs, and they fit really, really well because they know their ability level, they know their role, and they're really, they have no grandeur, thoughts of grandeur as far as walking in and playing right away. They kind of know they have to pay their dues and find their way.
Yeah, we got it. No, it's awesome. Hey, just since you brought up college, maybe you can help me out. So my freshman is he's a lot more excited about baseball than he is about school. I tell him there's a lot more money in good grades than there is in baseball, as far as college is concerned. But maybe you can put it a better way than me. Like what kind of advice would you have to make sure that the grade component is just as much up front as the baseball side?
Well, the biggest thing about grades now is the sheer numbers of high school athletes trying to get into college is almost doubled due to the rule changes at the major league draft level and the reduction of minor league teams, and now the transfer portal. So now more than ever, high school student athletes are kind of fighting upstream. They're trying to swim upstream, trying to find a spot. A scholarship in baseball is a performance bonus. It's not a scholarship. The term scholarship, as it relates to football or basketball, soccer, lacrosse, et cetera, those are guaranteed 4-year full scholarships. Whereas in baseball, it's a performance bonus. As a high school athlete, you get that, okay, this is what we project you to do. We're going to give you this bonus, but next year we can take that away if things don't work out. And 9 times out of 10, that typically happens. Academic money lasts for as long as you meet those academic requirements, the levels that they set for the financial aid. You keep those for 4 years. College coaches, almost the first or almost guaranteed the second question they ask every single student athlete: how are your grades? because that dictates how much money they're going to be able to get to you. But more importantly, that's a signal as to how disciplined you are as a student athlete. You know, it's not athlete student. These colleges have to deal with admissions departments, and you know, they don't care about the baseball. They care about how is this student going to function within the classroom environment. And we need to know, are they as dedicated? Are they as disciplined? Are they as involved and engaged and accountable with their grades? College coach here as well, I'm a C student or I'm a B student. I always tell kids, you can be the best of the worst or the worst of the best. That's what a C student is. That means you just flatline. You don't have any desire to go up, and you just like to kind of cruise with everybody else. You're not trying to be better than everybody else. And you don't have that passion and that drive. So what I used to do, especially with my oldest, is always tell them, here's the deal. The grades determine the level of baseball that you will play. And if you do not qualify for a 4-year school, i.e. NCAA 1, 2, or 3, you have to go to a JUCO college. There's no way you can get in through clearinghouse. So if your grades are not up to par, you're not going to be able to find your way onto a college campus right out of high school. You're going to have to do JUCO, and now JUCOs are more crowded than ever. And so you have to find a good local. I know there's several good local junior colleges in your neck of the woods. But always try to put, what I try to tell parents is 168 hours in a week. We want to get at least 60, 65 hours a week of sleep. How are we going to break those remaining approximate 100 hours down? And you have to get into that routine, that structure, create those daily disciplines where your son doesn't have to say anything to you. You know that at 6 to 7, he's in his room studying, or maybe it's 8 to 9. You know, and then you set some goals for yourself, you know, put them on a refrigerator. And so on one side of the refrigerator, I put the weight. What they're weighing in at today. And then on the other side of the refrigerator, I have their goal. And then I put their grades underneath and say, okay, currently we're here and we want to end up here. And then at the end of every quarter or semester, we look and we say, okay, the weight is here, but the grades, okay, we got to have those grades. And then I would always have some sort of a incentive, you know, whether it was a gift card somewhere or anything along those lines. But if you get into that habit as a young student athlete to have a daily routine, which includes and starts with academics, your transition and the ability to kind of make a nice smooth transition into college will be a lot easier. And you'll find that a lot of schools will have academic money where they do not have baseball or sport athletic money.
Got it.
Always focus on it. When I tell parents, the first thing admissions will say to a coach when they say, okay, here's my list of 5 guys, they always say, okay, who's the bottom of the barrel? What are we starting with? What's our foundation? You know, you don't want to be that guy where everybody else is at a 3.8 or 4.2 and you're a 2.4 or 2.3. What you want to try to do is, okay, you're at a 2.5 right now. Let's shoot for 2.8. Let's get to 2.8. Once we get there, then we'll start working on 3.1. But when you have that transcript, especially your freshman year, that's the most important year of the transcript. Very hard to make significant jumps in GPA over the course of 4 years if you start really low that freshman year.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But put the goals on the refrigerator. You'll see it'll work. I promise you. He's got to see it every time he goes to the fridge.
That's good. I like it. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll get on with it. But I appreciate the time and advice on this stuff. It really is helpful.
Well, anytime you have anything, just fire me off something off on Twitter. You can send me a direct message. I'll make sure I help you out. Want to thank everybody that joined us here today. If you have any questions about today's topic or questions, put them down below in the comments section. I'll make sure that I answer them myself directly. Obviously, we want you to subscribe so you stay up to date, and also hit the like button. That helps us grow the channel. Until next time, all good in baseball. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.